Okay, so let's just start the session straight away. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining me today. Sorry for a bit delay. We are still waiting for people and who are still joining in, but let's not wait further. Let's start the session. So again, thank you so much. Just a brief introduction to the people who don't know me. My name is Mohammed Owais. I am a founder of Mastering FRM, which is a preparation provider for FRM certification. So today's session is something that I'm absolutely passionate about. So I'm passionate about actually a lot of things, but writing is one of those. So I have been writing about a lot of topics for a very long time. I started writing, I don't know, 12 years back. But for last many years, I've been working and writing as an author. So I'm a corresponding author at a couple of places, and some of my articles has actually been published in newspapers and global magazines. So to start off, let me share the screen and start this session. Okay, but before we do that, we will keep the session a bit interactive. So what you need to do is, if you are on a laptop, then it's fine because you'll have to do a bit of research and write a few things. But if you're on your mobile, I would suggest to just bring a paper and a pen so you could write things up when it's required. I'll actually ask you to write a few things when we'll come forward. So without wasting further time, let's just start discussing our today's content. Let me share the screen so you can just view my screen. Yeah, here it is. So it's a webinar on article writing for finance and risk professionals. And as you are already aware, I don't know if my videos are still on. Can you view my video? Is it fine? Yeah, I think you can. Okay. Okay, so so start off. It's a webinar on article writing for finance and risk professionals. So basically, it would be a bit journal also, but I'll be covering more examples about the finance and risk related articles. Okay. So before we do that, let's discuss a bit about why write. So let me ask you this question straight away. Why do you write? If you write it, or if you don't and you are intended to write something, why do you want to do it? Specifically in the field of risk and finance. Thank you, Shahid. Good evening. So I would appreciate if you could just answer in the chat by writing the reason that why do you write? And then obviously I'll explain mine, that why I started writing and why do I write. And I'll be sharing a couple of research articles on why people actually write. Clarifying thought process, that's very true. That's Shahid, to express your thoughts. That's very true. Sajid, to share my experience. Yes, that's a valid reason also. Any other person? Share my knowledge or what I have learned. Yes, that's a very valid reason. Okay, so so these things, these all are very relevant to why we actually write. The reason I write is probably along these lines. It's largely because actually you learn when you go through a thought process. You learn something, you process it, and you deliver. When you do this, when you go through this process, you better learn it, you clarify your concept, and obviously you able to reach a larger audience. Okay, so there's this quote by Joe Didion which says that I don't know what I think until I write it down. So so there is this there's this learning framework that we have. It's one of the very famous articles. I'll just shortly share it. But it mentions about the learning loop. So basically, what you do, you collect information from a lot of sources. So you read an article, you listen to a podcast, you read a blog, you read a book. So you keep gathering all of these informations. And in normal course of business, we think that whenever we are listening to a podcast, to a book summary, to an article, we are actually collecting information and learning it. But in a sense, in actual, it's just collecting the information. You are just downloading it. And the actual process of doing it, of learning, is actually you collect information, you read an article, you read a blog, you read a book, you listen to podcasts, you listen to summaries, you watch videos. You are just collecting the information. The second process of learning is you need to transform it from a plethora or a quantum or a broad spectrum of knowledge into something that is something concise, that is something that can be transferred to other. Then you come up with experimentation. You, through different learnings, you try to come up with a conclusion, and then you actually start communicating with others. As Shaista just said, she does it to share her learning experience. That was Sajid also said. So this is pretty much it. That you do experimentation, you write something, you make a video, and then you collect feedback, whether you have written it well, whether you have written it the way that that you should have or not. So this is a continuous cycle that you need to follow if you want to learn something. And for me, the experimentation and feedback comes through writing. So you can make videos, you can teach online or offline, but one way of doing it also through writing. So that's one point. Then the other point is of why writing is this modern learning pyramid. So basically it talks about that you have different sort of levels of learning. So when you are just reading something without taking any notes, it's passive learning. And there's a high probability that you will not actually remember a lot of things. Most of the things you will actually be forgetting. This is, we keep reading articles on the web, on our laptop, on our iPads, on our phones, but we could not retain a lot of things. But then there comes this second level of active learning, in which we actually highlight or copy notes. This is something that we do for our for our studies, for our exam preparation, for our, you can say, for any test that we are given. So we have a hard copy in place, we are highlighting as we are taking notes, and we are concerned that we will be tested. Okay, so we are more active. We are not that passive, we are active. We know that we are going to reproduce our knowledge, we are going to use this information somewhere else. Then we have another level, that's constructive. Okay, so constructive learning is what? It's about reflecting out loud. It's about mind mapping. It's about taking notes in your own words. It's about asking and answering questions. Okay, so you are actually just not taking notes. You are now just highlighting it. You're thinking about it. You're discussing it. You are taking brief, detailed notes in your own words. You're answering questions. This is what we do usually in a classroom environment. Okay, and then you are interacting, you are debating, you are dialoguing, you are explaining it to someone else. So when the fourth portion, in which you learn the most, that involves explaining it to someone else. And explaining it to someone else, there are multiple ways of doing it, but one of the ways of doing it is through writing. So what you do is, when you actually write, you actually communicate what you have actually learned. And this is something very, very pivotal. Okay, this is something very very creative, very long lasting. So where do you generally rate yourself in this pyramid? Are you a passive learner? Are you a active learner? Are you a constructive learner? Are you an interactive learner? Where do you rate yourself? I'm talking about other than studies. In studies, I know most of us are active and constructive learner. But when it comes to reading articles, where do you rate yourself? Interactive. That's very good. That's very good to hear. It's probably the best approach, actually. SAS is also interactive. That's great. That's amazing. Yes, Shahid. Okay. So you need to work on. You're rightly here. Okay. All right. So so the broad objective. See why I'm discussing this. I'm a strong believer of that you cannot do something unless you are clear why do you want to do it. So unless your why of writing is not clear, you cannot write well. You cannot write with consistency. You cannot write with a lot of motivation. Okay. So all of you here who are attending, I think we don't have a lot of people joining in today. It's obviously a weekday, but most of you who are here, just write one line in your notebook, in the chat if you want, or in your message if you may, and write why do you want to write. Make an objective statement. Make an objective statement. Like for example, for me, I write to learn things well. Okay. So what is your objective statement for writing? What is your objective statement for writing? If you can share, just exactly to clear things about about different topics, upon different myths, you can say. Recently, I have been reading this quote that pick your boss, don't pick a job. And I actually wrote a very short write-up on that front, that you cannot just pick your boss, and it was very well taken. So yes, you can do that. So if you want to clarify things about something, that's the best thing. Right, to document, to clarify myths of women role in Islam. That's an amazing objective, Shaista, and you have a lot of room, trust me. There is a lot of things to write about. You have a world to explore, and I'm pretty sure when you will find that objective and you will find that genre of yours, you will be very clear about it. In the end, we will make a strategy of how should we go about it. But first, broadly discuss what we are, what we are going through, and and how should we go about it. So first one is to have a clarity about why you want to write. So those of you who haven't written in a chat, I would request you just please write it yourself and confirm if you have. Because if you are not clear here that why do you want to write, then you won't be clear in writing also. And if you are not able to do it right now, I would request you just do it after the session. Think about it, read articles on it, why people write. Maybe I couldn't able to, deliver all sort of spectrum that is to writing. People have different objectives of writing, but do that and make an objective statement of why you want to write, and you will have a lot of clarity about why you want to do things. Okay, next thing, this is very broad, but I really needed to put this up here. And this is that there are generally two broad genres. The first one is fiction and first one is non-fiction. So in our today's session, we are covering obviously the non-fiction. We won't be talking about fiction. But I will share an article which is actually a blog and a fictional blog. I won't ask you to read all of it, but I'll request you to read some of it so you can have an idea about what blog is. So what we have done, we have talked about what writing is, and we have discussed why you should write. Now let's move forward and discuss that what is an article, what is a blog, and what is a story. Okay. So broadly in today's world, you will see it using interchangeably. Okay. So let's differentiate a little that what is something that we call article, what's that we call a blog, and what do we call a story. So what is an article? And by article, I don't mean research article. This is not the article that are published in science and economics journal. These are the articles which are published in, for example, newspapers. For example, you may have read that world economy is going to get better by World Bank. That's an article. You may have read that Pakistan economy is actually growing. That's an article. You may have read that PKR is actually appreciating against USD for last week, and there are certain reasons behind it. That's an article. Okay. So if you go by definition, an article is a written full text of document or literally work. It may be for newspaper, for magazine, for a journal, for a website, for a blog maybe, or just for informational purposes. Okay. So an article is something, it's more formal. It is something that is to deliver a message, to deliver an information. For example, let's talk about this article on PKR appreciating against USD, a story. Okay. So if you write such sort of article in which you will be explaining why PKR is actually appreciating against USD, when USD is actually appreciating against all other currencies because of the monetary tightening expectation in the US. I'm not going to detail. It's not a technical session. But why is that happening? Okay, so that would be an article that would probably publish in a newspaper or on a blog site or your own website. Okay, the definition 2 talks about a written composition in prose, usually non-fiction, on a specific subject. Usually non-fiction by means it can be fiction as well, but fiction in a way that you are actually delivering something that is non-fictional. And it would be on a specific topic. It would be becoming an independent part of a book or a publication or a newspaper or a magazine. Okay, so this is what an article is. Now, there's this concept of what we refer as blockbuster articles. There's this guy. His name is Michael Simmons. Let me share his article with you. The title of the article is Memory and Learning Through Breakthroughs. I've pasted it in your chat. It's a very long article. I don't expect you to complete it, but take 3 minutes and just skim through it. Just open it and skim through it and see the content, the kind of content he has discussed. It's not again related to finance and economics or risk. It basically explains why you should teach and how people actually learn. So the picture that I showed is actually from this article. So just take a couple of minutes, go through this article, and then come back and write that you have come back. You have 3 minutes. We'll be starting again by 9:26 by my time. Okay, 9:26. Are you guys back? Just write in the chat if you have gone through the article. Then I'll ask some questions. Back. Okay. Shahid, give your feedback about this article. What do you think about this particular article? Do you find it good? Is it very detailed? Shahid, same question.
I like the way he says humans are born to teach.
Yes, yes. Sajid. Yes, that's true. Great. Who are others? Aknur Kas, Rutba, Mushahid. Please feel free to share your experience. What do you think about the article? That's true. That's true, Shahid. That's true. Okay, great. Let's move forward and let's see what is a blog. So just leave what I've written. I just Googled a little and wrote a few things about blog. Blog in itself, it's a bit more informal, and it is, you can say it's a page out of your diary. Okay. So it's a bit informal. You don't need to follow a lot of, format. The language could be a bit informal. So it didn't used to be popular, but after 2009, 2010, when micro blogging started on the platform like Twitters and other, blog has become very critical in sort of writing. So if you are writing from for a newspaper, for you can say for a magazine, you would be writing in the form of article. But if you're writing from on your own website, you may decide that your audience is such that likes informal writing. So you can decide to write a blog. We'll just shortly discuss what is the difference between article and blog. So article is more structured, blog is more informal. It is something that you can publish on your own website or through your newsletter. So broadly, blogs are more informal, more unstructured, and it is something that that doesn't require a lot of efforts, if I can say that way. Okay, so let me just give an example of blogs. So I write this blog sometime back. Again, you need to go there. It's a fictional blog. It's on my LinkedIn. Just spend again 3 minutes and come back, and we'll talk about it. So 9:29 will start at 9:33. Okay. So are you all back? What do you think about this article? This blog and itself? And how it is different from the article? Great, great, great. So, so how did you find it, and what do you think the difference between? It's informal, yes. It's a storytelling. It's more of a storytelling, yes. Okay. Great, great. Now, the other method is actually a storytelling. So the other one I discussed, it's also a storytelling, but it's in a form of a blog, basically. Storytelling, it's something that we usually, for example, see at LinkedIn. So LinkedIn posts are generally shorter. So you have a limited words that you can put in there. So you can convert a particular, for example, risk incident into a story. Okay. So the blog that I talked about, it was informal, it was humorous, but I tried to explain something. Okay. So what did I try to explain? I tried to educate people that why they should actually be following the protocol, the SOPs, okay, in a blog way. So what is story? A story is basically narrating a real or imaginary events. So that one was an imaginary one. It was fiction, but it could also be real. The other story that I am just sharing, it would be a real story. Then a story needs to be represented in words. It's not just words. It could be represented through pictures also. Okay. So, so storytelling is something very in demand these days. The story needs a different session altogether. Today's session is not targeting on a story writing. Basically, we'll be more focusing on article writing, but you need to know about it. We may have a session someday about storytelling also. That's a separate art altogether. But that's a form of story. That's a form of writing that you made on. So let me share. It's a very small article, a very small write-up, a very small story. So you don't need to go anywhere now. You can just read it here. Take 1 minute, just read it. Do let me know when you're done with reading this. Great. So how do you find this particular story from the previous ones? Fact findings. Yes. Direct faction. Yes. So basically, the thing is that it actually started from when Bearing Bank was formed, when it was formed, and what actually happened, and it was actually, it actually went bankrupt. Yes, it's a background of an actual event. Okay, so so that's one way of doing it. You are just narrating an event that happened in the past, and you are letting people know that, see, this something happened. And I'm pretty sure this topic can be written in a lot of detail. This is a very brief version of what actually happened. There's a lot of detail involved in what actually happened and how this particular incident actually transformed the way the risk management and financial settlement is done. Okay, so it had a lot of impact, but this is a very broad summarized version of it. Now let's talk about, actually I have already talked about that, what is an article and what is a blog. So in an article, writer's opinion is not allowed. He has interview and research and credible sources. Articles are longer than 300 words. The first point, I won't agree all of it. You can actually share your opinion in the end. Actually, you need to share that opinion in the end. Uh, but not in a factual way. You don't talk about facts. You would be presenting facts, and uh, you would be concluding on that basis. Okay, it's a articles are generally longer, more than 300 words. Keywords are important. Keywords are not important. Spelling and grammar is of utmost importance. That's important in blogs too, by the way. And it's more sophisticated. A blog is mostly opinion of the writer. You don't have to care about a lot of facts there. Uh, there's no need of researching on interviews. You can just sit and write it. These are generally shorter. Correct spelling and grammatical mistakes should be avoided. Okay. Now we will talk about two things from now on. One is what should be the format of an article, and second thing is what is the process of writing an article. What is the process of writing an article? So let me share another article with you. This is the last one that I'm sharing. See, remember, you cannot write if you cannot read well. And that's why I'm just showing you different sort of articles so you can have an idea of what sort of writing people do. It will be depending what target audience you have. This is something that we'll just shortly discuss. But if you're clear on your target audience, you can have a lot of clarity about the genre, the type of writing you may adopt. So this is another article, a bit longer. Spend 3 minutes on it. So don't just read word by word, but skim through it. But must read the first and the last paragraph. Okay, and then we will discuss about these two things, the format and the process. Take, let's say, 3 minutes. And if you are done before that, let me know. Okay, Shasta, I'll do that. Are you done, everyone? Are you back? Okay. Okay, all right. So now I want you to first, in three, now tell me what is the format of this or the this article and the articles that we have read earlier. What is the format? Like introduction or conclusion, What did you find it as the format? If you want to make a generic format of an article based on the articles that you have read, what would be the things that must need to be there in the article? That's fine. I really appreciate that. What is the format? Introduction to the topic, discussion, and then conclusion. Yes, broadly. Very right. What other things? Do you agree with Shaista? Sajid, Gohar, Mushahid, who are others? Rudba, Shahid. References. Yes, references are required. Introduction, context, story, conclusion. Yes. Intro, briefing, and why it's important. Yes. So broadly, if we talk about very broadly, it would be the introduction. You would be starting off your article with a quote, with a starting line, and you should make the reader know that what they should be expecting from the article. And this is probably the most important part of the article, because in these few lines, in these few words, you have to hook them to make them read the remaining article. Okay? If they don't find your introduction be interesting enough, they won't actually be reading it. So your introduction needs to be spot on. You have to invest a lot of time in that. Then the body. Okay, so body will be depending on how long or short article is. So if your article is like 300 words, your content would be obviously a bit less. This current article that I shared, it's of 100 words, 800 words almost. Okay, so it's a bit longer. The article of Michael Simmons that earlier shared, I think it's more than, I don't know, 3,000 words. It's a small book, you can say, and that's why he called it blockbuster articles. Okay, so introduction, body, conclusion. Sajid has rightly pointed out, and this article did not have that, and that is references. So references are must. You must need to mention the references. So broadly, introduction, body, conclusion, and references. In the body, obviously, you can play around. You can bring examples. You can insert pictures. You can insert real life stories. You can insert code. Okay, that will be depending what sort of topic you have and how much room you have in that particular format. Okay, so this is pretty much the format. Now let's talk about the process. If I ask you to write the article that I just shared with you, and I tell you that you will have to submit it by Sunday, what steps you will follow to come up with that particular article? I want you to write steps, 5 broad steps. Minimum 3, maximum 5. What are the steps that you will be following to write that particular article? Minimum 3, maximum 5 steps you have to write to that you will have to follow to write the articles. Yes, please write in the chat. Research your topic, read the other articles, books, start a draft, write the draft, check spelling and grammar, submit with references. Okay. So these are first research, second draft, third rewrite, fourth check spelling grammar, and 5 submit with references. That's okay. What about others? Definition with the reference, explanation, example, conclusion. Okay. No, Rudra, we had to write the process that you will be following while completing this article. This is the format that you will be following. I'm asking about what process you will be following. Like you will research, you will write it, then you will rewrite it, then you will proofread it. What is the process that you will be following? That's what I'm talking about. Where are there? Sajid, Gohar, Shahid? Okay, great. So, yes, the process is you have to decide your write-up type. What sort of write-up type you will follow. Would it be a blog? Would it be an article? Would it be a story? Then you will have to decide word length, how long it's gonna be. The longer the length of the article, the more research you will be requiring. Okay. The shorter it is, the lesser time you will have, and you would be able to do it without a lot of efforts. Then decide your audience. Are you writing a finance article for people with a background in finance, or are you writing for the people who don't have a background of finance? The write-up would be different. So, for example, if you are writing for people who are from non-risk background and you are writing for a topic on financial risk management and you are directly quoting credit risk without explaining what credit risk, it would be disastrous. Okay. Your reader will not be able to make sense what credit risk is. So you will have to think what your audience is. That keep an ending in mind. This is something that we earlier discussed. So how do you want to do it, and what is that thing that you want your audience to be educated about? What's the motto of your article? What is the motto of your write-up? Then select title and subtitles. What should be the title of the article? You can have a subtitle. So you will find some articles who will have bold heading. For example, I wrote one, operational risk management, as a broad topic. The most critical risk in the COVID-19 world, in the post-COVID-19 world. That was a subtitle. Okay. So the broad title told me what is it about, and the subtitle told that what is actually the broad topic, the more specific, sorry, not broad, more specific topic of that particular article. Okay. Then decide format. What would be the introduction? What would be going in the body? What would be going in the conclusion? This research is something that you can do before writing or during the writing. This is depend on what sort of writer you are. For example, the sort of writer I am, I first decide what sort of writing I'll be doing. I do the research and then I start writing. And if I need something to do research during it, then I do that. Otherwise, most of my research is done before I start writing. Okay, so that depends. So I've written it this way. So you obviously in the editor step you draft that article and then you edit and format. Okay, Sajid. Okay, all right. All the best. Hope it's okay. And then you edit and format. So indeed. Okay, so now we have a few minutes left. We have to broadly write a 300 words outline, not an entire article, but you have these two topics that I have selected. The first one is the perks for being a financial risk manager, and the second one is the advantage of being a finance guy or girl, you can say. So we have quite a few words here. Okay, so just take 5 minutes and take a broad outline and share it in the chat. And then I'll be requesting you all that my email address is owais@stikrar.com and owais.sidd@yahoo.com. You will have to submit this article by Sunday, and I'll be proofreading it and I'll be giving my feedback on this particular article. So you have 5 minutes now. 9:59. I'll be expecting something, some broad outline of this particular article. What will be the word line? Just let me open this. Follow this format and decide your type, decide your word line, decide your article. What do you want to convey? Select. So do until now. You can do it until step 6. So just finalize your topic, what topic you are picking, and then do these process quickly. You have 5 minutes to do that. Great. So it will be a blog. It will be for non-finance people. It will have importance of earning and spending in permissible channels, as will be held accountable for it. Okay, what will be the word limit for this article, Shaista? And what will be your target audience? As a non-finance people, you have already written it. You have mentioned 300 to 500 words. Okay, all right. 300, 500 words is actually a very broad range. So you will have to decide either 300 or 500 because your content will be depending on it. So keep it exact 500 or 300 and it would be easier. What about others? Mazhar, Mushahid, Rutbah. Okay, so I think the time is up. You have your email address. You have my email ID already, so you can just, write me there and I'll be able to respond you back. So with this, we will be concluding our session. And I read this quote somewhere that if you have opened your Word or have held a pen to write, you're already a writer. So with that belief that you can actually become a writer, you should, okay, let me do that. Remember, writing is the process. It's just a minute. It's double D. It's double D. Okay. Remember, writing is a process. You won't be able to become a good writer in one night. All right. So you will have to work a lot. You'll have to work a lot. But once you start writing, you start seeing the difference. When I started writing, I always used to have a couple of friends who I would also always, get proofread and then post it online. But with time, I started getting confidence and kept improving over the years. There are definitely a lot of articles that I wrote and I never shared it with anyone because the people that I shared my article with, they never gave me feedback. So I thought that it wasn't good enough and that's why they didn't give any sort of feedback. So I would really recommend don't do that. Maybe you wouldn't be writing well in the start, but you don't know what sort of writing you have and if a particular article was good or bad unless you share it in the world. So before we end, I would recommend you to make a strategy. If you don't write, try writing an article or a blog or a story once a week, at least. If you already write once a week, start writing 2 articles a week. If you write shorter articles, try writing longer articles. Get out of your comfort zone and you will be able to become a great writer soon, inshallah. If you have any questions, please let me know. And then we'll be wrapping up our session, inshallah. If you have any questions, please let me know. Okay. So let's stop our session here. Thank you so much for joining in. Hope you were able to learn something. I know it was a very short session and I tried to cover a lot of things. And obviously, you will not become a writer by attending 1 hour session, but it's actually the right start. And since you have attended, you have the intention. And if you have the intention, you will definitely be able to achieve it. So thank you so much again for joining in. We will keep conducting such sessions. We have our next session next week. That's on risk management again. Its topic is risk management in the developed world. So you can register for that as well. And most of you know me personally, so we can still get in touch. And if you have any query, you can always come up and ask me. So thank you so much for your time. Have a good weekend. Allah Hafiz.